Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Discussions. On today's episode, I'm going to go over last night's results for Impact Wrestling. I'm going to go over tonight's match card for AEW Rampage, as well as the match card. Well, not really the match card, but what to expect with tonight's Friday Night Smackdown. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. We're going to start with the results from last night's Impact Wrestling. First match, we're going to start here. I'm going to mention this first. We saw Mickie James open up the show, and Mickie James had actually stated, or well, she didn't state this, but it ended up being revealed that it's going to be in February at No Surrender. We will see Mickie James defend the Knockouts Women's Championship against the number one contender for the title, Masha Slamovic. Now, I did not know this match was scheduled, but last night we did see Mickie James, Jordynne Grace, and Frankie Kazarian take on Tasha Steelz, Savannah Evans, and Bully Ray in a 6-person tag. Now, I did not predict this match, so I can't say if I was correct or not. However, the winners of the match were Mickie James, Jordynne Grace, and Frankie Kazarian, which is obviously very interesting to me. It doesn't surprise me in terms of the two women, Mickie James and Jordynne Grace, both very prestigious women, especially after the match they just had against one another at Hard to Kill. And I can only imagine what this means for Jordynne Grace and Mickie James. Maybe we'll get a rematch down the line. On top of that, though, Frankie Kazarian and Bully Ray, the fact that Bully Ray was there last night speaks volumes, because it means he's not done in Impact Wrestling, which is great, right? Because, yes, he lost to Josh Alexander, but I don't think anyone wants to see Bully Ray leave yet. His promos and his capability on the mic and in the ring and just all around, his way of being a heel is so entertaining that it adds a whole new vibe to it, right? And I think everyone loves it and everyone gets behind it. I certainly do. Now, moving on to our second match, we saw I'm not going to go over the different segments. I'm going to say that now just because I don't really want to get into every single segment. I'm going to go over the match card and the results of the match card, and if there are certain segments you guys want me to go over later on and kind of talk about, I'm more than willing to do that in a later episode. Now, moving on to our second match, we saw Deonna Purrazzo versus Ashley D'Amboise, or however you pronounce her name. Now, I had predicted Deonna Purrazzo was going to win this, and I was correct. Now, obviously, Deonna Purrazzo, one of the best women in the Knockouts division, I think, and I don't think anyone can argue that. I think she is by far one of the best talents they currently have in Impact Wrestling. And I think Deonna Purrazzo is on her way to fighting Mickie James once again for the Knockouts Women's Championship at some point later down the line. Now, we also saw Killer Kelly versus Taylor Wilde. Now, my prediction for this was Taylor Wilde. However, we did see Killer Kelly win via submission, which is very interesting to me. Not to say that, not to take anything away from Killer Kelly, simply more so to say that I expected the victory from Taylor Wilde. However, I think this is good for Killer Kelly due to obvious reasons, with her, being new to the Impact division, being new to the Knockouts division, trying to come in, trying to make a name for herself. Especially with Mickie James being the champion that she is, I could picture her, putting over a lot of the new girls, and I think this could be Killer Kelly's opportunity to, get her foot through the door, get her name out there a little more. We also saw Steve Maclin versus Dirty Dango. Now, this is another match I didn't know was going to be on the card, so I didn't have a prediction for this match. However, the winner was Steve Maclin. On top of that, we saw in our fifth match Mike Bailey versus Kenny Kane in a pit fight, no ropes. Now, I had predicted Mike Bailey on this due to simply, the way they've been pushing him and where he may potentially go from here, and I was correct. Mike Bailey did win. Very interesting to me due to the simple fact that there has been some rumors going around that Kenny Kane might be done with Impact Wrestling, that Kenny Kane might want to leave, and go somewhere else, or I don't know. And that's interesting because obviously, we saw Dragon Lee, who was a former partner of Kenny Kane's. He's got a contract with WWE now. He's going over to NXT. He is supposedly the highest paid NXT superstar, or going to be the highest paid NXT superstar. On top of that, Kenny Kane, in the WWE is not a bad idea, right? And so that would certainly be interesting if we could see him go and maybe join up with Dragon Lee at some point. Now, moving on, we're going to move on to AEW Rampage. Tonight's card, very interesting card. We're going to start with Action Andretti versus Daniel Garcia. Now, this is a match I can get behind when speaking of Action Andretti. Action Andretti got his name through the door. I feel like Chris Jericho puts people over a little too much. I understand why he does it, and I think he's one of the smartest and most talented guys in this business, but I also think there's a limit, and I think Chris Jericho is on a fine line right now of what that limit is. And I think right now, with where Action Andretti is and where Daniel Garcia is on the totem pole, especially after his match with Wheeler Yuta at Final Battle, Ring of Honor Final Battle, I think this puts both in a great position. Now, in terms of predictions, I'm going to go with Daniel Garcia, simply due to the fact that I think Daniel Garcia, not to say I think simply due to the fact that I think Action Andretti still needs to get his name through the door a little more. And I think Daniel Garcia is going to have the entire JAS with him, while also having a more technical in-ring style than what Chris Jericho has. And I think that's going to be able to ground Action Andretti. I think it's going to surprise Action Andretti. And I think Daniel Garcia, especially after his match with Bryan Danielson and managing to have an incredible 2 out of 3 falls match, and then, even before that, he beat Bryan Danielson in singles action. I think Daniel Garcia could 100% defeat Action Andretti. Honestly, I think Daniel Garcia deserves to defeat Action Andretti. Fair and square, to be quite honest with you. And I think if Tony Khan doesn't write it that way, then I don't understand what he's doing with half these guys then. Because I feel like, he's turning in everything he kind of complained about, in the sense that he's becoming Vince McMahon. But without trying to get too deep into that, my prediction is Daniel Garcia. Now, moving on down the list, we have Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Ethan Page. Now, this is interesting. Obviously, Jungle Boy's been feuding with the Firm. And so we could see Jungle Boy later down the line have more issues with the Firm. I don't know. This could very well get Jungle Boy an opportunity to take the title off of MJF in the later future. Now, going into this match, Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Ethan Page, I think this could go either way, specifically due to the fact that Ethan Page has become a much more bigger star than he was in AEW, and he's actually winning matches now, and he's becoming more cunning and more unpredictable, and so it's hard to say what the outcome might be for him. However, Jungle Boy has severely been being put over, and I don't think he's done with that yet. I don't think he's done with this incredible singles run he's been having. And so I'm going to go with Jungle Boy Jack Perry on this. That's my prediction for this. I think Jungle Boy Jack has a lot left in the tank, and I think storyline-wise, he's going to beat Ethan Page. But again, we're just going to have to wait and see. But my prediction is Jungle Boy Jack. Now, moving on down the list, we've got Brian Cage versus Willie Mack. Now, I haven't seen Willie Mack in quite a bit. I don't even know if he's still signed to Impact Wrestling, but it does sound like he's going to be on Rampage tonight. And on top of that, he's fighting the Machine, Brian Cage. Now, Brian Cage has been very impressive lately. And it sounds like MJF recently bought off Brian Cage for who knows what. Well, I know it was revealed, but unfortunately I didn't see the full clip, so I don't know exactly what he wants Brian Cage to do. I think it's to fight Danielson next week, but I am not 100% certain, so don't quote me on that. Brian Cage versus Willie Mack. Very interesting. My prediction's obviously going to be Brian Cage. Not to take away from Willie Mack. I think Willie Mack's very entertaining. I think he's one hell of a wrestler. However, this reminds me exactly of what Shawn Spears used to do back when he was working with MJF. And so I think this is going to be a quick match on Rampage. I don't think it's going to be much to really look at and analyze. And so I'm going to simply go with Brian Cage. And then we have Jade Cargill and Layla Gray in tag team action. Now, this is interesting to me. Obviously, Jade Cargill, undefeated. I think she's like 48 and 0, 49 and 0, somewhere around there. I'm getting sick and tired of Jade Cargill. And the fact that it says in tag team action, everyone knows this means they don't have official opponents. It's going to be a quick and easy win for Jade Cargill and Layla Gray. And so, I don't know. I don't know. This doesn't seem like anything super entertaining. And so I guess we're just gonna kind of have to wait and see. It seems to me as though Jade Cargill is just, the TBS championship in my opinion is trash at this point, due to the simple fact that when it does get defended, it gets defended in like 2 to 5 minute matches. Jade Cargill hasn't lost. She's the only TBS women's champion ever, and it's not even like a good title run in my opinion. And so I'm not even gonna entertain that idea. Now, we're also going to see Eddie Kingston cut a promo now. I don't know what this could entail. Obviously, last Friday, we saw him and Ortiz kind of butting heads a lot. I think it's safe to say that Malachi Black, Brody Kane, Julia Hart, and Buddy Matthews all got inside the head of Eddie Kingston and Ortiz. Maybe not Ortiz, but definitely Eddie. And I think they are trying to drive more and more of a rift between Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. And I just hope this gives more storyline to Eddie and Ortiz, because these guys haven't even had a proper storyline for television in a couple months. And Eddie, of all people, certainly deserves it. This dude's put on moment after moment, match after match, and Eddie deserves so much more than what he's getting right now, than the card he's being dealt right now. And so I want to see Eddie Kingston really just go out there and really prove himself and really show the world what he's made of. And so I want to see this storyline go all the way to Revolution. I want to see Malachi Black. There's going to be a tag team turmoil match, and we do know Viking Raiders, Drew McIntyre, and Sheamus are going to start that match. That's interesting. Obviously, the winners are going to fight the Usos for the Smackdown Tag Team titles. This Monday, however, Judgment Day will be fighting the Usos for the Raw Tag Team titles, which obviously kind of, implies that they want to split up the titles. Now, I don't know what all teams are going to be in this Tag Team Turmoil match tonight. All I know for a fact is that Viking Raiders are involved and that Drew McIntyre and Sheamus are involved. Now, again, I've said this for a while. I think the Viking Raiders deserve this. And, I'm not trying to be mean, but I want to see the Viking Raiders beat Drew and Sheamus. I want to see the Viking Raiders take this all the way to the top and beat the Usos. I think the Viking Raiders deserve this more than anything. I think they deserve this more than anyone, and so I am 100% on the side of the Viking Raiders going into this match tonight. I don't care what teams they bring into this. My prediction is the Viking Raiders, due to the simple fact that I want to see these guys take it all the way once and for all. I want to see them finally win. The big one, especially. Now, we're also going to see a contract signing between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, which is also very interesting to me because this could be another trap by the Bloodline. But it's also interesting because I want to see what we have in store for Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, I think, is just in terrible pain after last week. Storyline-wise, of course, obviously not in real life, but storyline-wise, I think Sami Zayn is in terrible pain from last week due to the simple fact that I think he feels betrayed. I think he feels heartbroken that, Paul Heyman, the wise man, the special counsel to the tribal chief himself, told Sami Zayn that Roman Reigns didn't want the bloodline there. Roman Reigns didn't want Solo Sikoa or the Usos there because he believed in Sami. And so this could mean two things. This could mean the Usos and Solo went off on their own and just wanted to beat the shit out of Kevin Owens, or this could mean that Roman Reigns doesn't actually believe in Sami Zayn. And I'm hoping we get some answers tonight. I'm hoping we find out a little more tonight. And see, this is where that idea of everyone saying how the bloodline's going to betray Sami Zayn, this is where that idea of, what if Sami is slowly getting that seed planted into his head? And what if Sami gets betrayed by the bloodline, but really because he stops the bloodline from doing something to Kevin Owens, maybe? What if a little more about this idea of Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville and where that rivalry might go? I'm hoping to see a little more with Liv Morgan. It sounds like Liv Morgan wants to start number 1 for the Women's Royal Rumble. And again, in terms of the Women's Royal Rumble, I think Liv Morgan is my pick for now. And I'll talk a little bit more about the Royal Rumble, the entire match card of the Royal Rumble, and containing like including both the men's and women's Rumble matches. I'll talk about all of that as we get closer to the Rumble itself next Saturday. But in terms of tonight, especially after the match Liv Morgan had with Raquel Rodriguez, I don't know what we're going to see with that. I'm also curious what we might see with Karrion Kross and Rey Mysterio. Those two, I want to see a little more out of both of them. I would love to see them fight at the Rumble. However, I think seeing them fight in the Rumble, like in the men's match, would also be very interesting to do. Now, in terms of what's going on with the Intercontinental Championship, I want to see new faces kind of get brought into this rivalry, right? We saw Braun Strowman, we've seen Ricochet, we've seen Rey Mysterio, we've seen Sheamus. I want to see a new face kind of get involved with Gunther. Maybe Santos Escobar, maybe I don't know, maybe I don't want to see Braun Strowman again. I know some people do due to the simple fact that, oh, well, his arm, it was like 3-on-1, his shoulder was injured, and I get it, okay? But at the same time, if Strowman beats Gunther, then what's going to happen to the Intercontinental title? Because two single belts, both of which in terms of singles runs, he hasn't held them for very long, and I just don't see him holding that belt and keeping its prestige to such a high level like Gunther is doing. And so I'd rather see Gunther move on and fight someone else. Maybe down the line that could be Bray Wyatt. Maybe down the line that could be LA Knight. I don't know exactly who would take it to Gunther at some point, but I know someone would. Personally, I want to see them start utilizing Drew Gulak more and giving Drew Gulak the proper respect and matches that he so deserves. But I'd also like to see Gunther just defend it, again and again and again, and against guys that really, honestly deserve it. And so, I don't know, and especially with Sheamus and McIntyre becoming a tag team, I don't know what this might mean in terms of who might be next for a title opportunity against Gunther, because it's so hard to look at it and say, well, this guy deserves it and this guy deserves it. I think Madcap Moss is a prospect. I'm not sure if he really deserves the opportunity, but if he were to get the opportunity to fight Gunther, I think Gunther should win, and it would be another great way to put Gunther over. But I think we need to start getting more talent. I think the draft needs to happen now more than ever, and I think we need to finally mix it up so we can see all these champions start defending the titles against new faces, new crowds, that sort of thing. I want to see these divisions kind of start to shake it up a little. And I'm not one to usually buy into that. I'm usually one that likes to see the same old, just because I don't like seeing them switch brands, because I find them to be iconic to that specific brand. However, I think these past couple of months, over the span of a year, I think it's been getting very old, very tiresome in the sense that we've seen these guys and gals on the same brands for at least a year now, and it's it's getting a little annoying in the sense that shake it up a little bit, because we're seeing the same old, and they can only do so many rivalries and so many different things until people start going, we want to see a brand switch, we want to see a draft. And so I'm hoping right after WrestleMania, I'm hoping that happens. And I think, like with what Triple H is doing, I think the plan is to do it after WrestleMania, but I just hope the draft happens, or maybe they have something else in store. I'm not sure, but either way, I want to see all of this go down, and I want to see something happen for the Intercontinental title. Like, I want to see something tonight go down in terms of the Intercontinental title, and I want to see something go down with this Sami Zayn and Bloodline stuff, as well as the contract signing between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. I'm sure that's going to play a big role. I'm just hoping it doesn't turn into like a 5-on-1 assault, the Bloodline just taking it to Kevin Owens. I'm hoping to see a little more out of the prize fighter, But all in all, those are my predictions. Those are the results for Impact Wrestling, predictions for Friday Night Smackdown, and Rampage. I will go over the results for both of those tomorrow night, as well as some other topics. So stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's episode. Thank you all so much, as always, for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.